Welcome to Aon at the Top, where I have the honor of interviewing some of the most distinguished executives, C-suite, and board members about their journeys and paths to success. I'm your host, Nicole Ward, the Senior Vice President of Sales at Aon. In this series, we draw out meaningful insights and candid perspectives on navigating to the top. At Aon, we help you make better business decisions by turning risk into resilience. Dave, such a terrific background. And just after knowing you for so many years, it's a pleasure to get to spend time with you today and really fun to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Nicole. Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity to share the Equilar story.
Absolutely. Well, first, I want to start with your story just a little bit, because you do have such an incredible background. And I think a lot of people would love for you to share a little bit about the underpinnings, right? So, when you first started, or you were first sort of mapping what you thought your career would be, did you have a clear vision that this was all how it was going to play out? Or did it unfold more organically? Can you back it up for us a little bit and give us some backstory?
Without question, the organic. I was the rare college student who started in liberal arts and actually transferred into engineering because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And even after finishing and getting a degree in engineering, I knew I didn't want to be an engineer. So it was for early on in my career, not sure what I wanted to do. I was fortunate enough to land a job at Bain in consulting right out of undergrad. And that was a good experience and got my, worked at a software company, got my MBA, worked on Wall Street. So the beauty of all that was I was able to see so many different businesses along the way and meet a lot of great people. And then, in the late 90s, that's when I knew I wanted to at least give it a shot as an entrepreneur. And that's how I got started with Equilar.
And can you say more about that original spark? And the vision for Equilar, and then a little bit about how it's evolved from what you originally, its inception to now.
Yeah. So I think you were in the Valley in the late 90s, right?
I was, yes.
Yeah, because, I remember we met. Yeah. It wasn't quite, we met, probably early 2000s-ish, right?
We did,
and,
yes.
But, so I moved out here in 1997. I distinctly remember, and I regret not saving the boarding pass for my flight. And I remember that United Airlines flight, April 8th, 1997, looking at the boarding pass. I'm like, oh, should I save this? And I'm like, I'm not, we're moving back to New York. I'm not going to need it. I wish I had saved it. And that being said, worked at DLJ in investment banking for until early 2000. But as you know, everybody was starting companies up at that time. And so I wanted to give it a shot. Wasn't getting easier as I was starting a family. So I was thinking about, okay, what type of business could I start? And as I'd mentioned, while at DLJ and in consulting, you get to see a lot of different businesses. You get to see a lot of different business models. And one of the companies we worked with, or at least DLJ worked with, I didn't personally work with them, but they had taken FactSet public in the mid 90s. And so I said, the data businesses seem like a really good business to start. And I said, okay, well, what type of data could I go out and, capture and mine? And late 90s, the SEC launched Edgar. And so that's when I realized, okay, hey, there may be an opportunity here to go into some Edgar filings, take this unstructured data, mine it, and, build a business around it. Somehow we got into this whole exec comp corporate governance area, not an area I knew much about, to be honest, when we started Equilar. But I said, given circumstances, I'm like, we'll figure this out. and we did. And it's been a lot of fun. And so that we've got our business on the executive pay side, working with senior HR leaders, corporate governance professionals. As you know, executive comp is always in the news. People like to write about it, and it's something that investors vote on. And then, but what I'm even more excited as we think about Equilar moving forward, we've collected all this great data on execs, and we've built out their profiles, we've built out their networks. And so it built out a whole new application, and super excited about the use cases and the different types of businesses we're working with on that. Very horizontal problem, as you know, is like, how do we get to the C-suite? Who do we know? Whether you're in insurance, investment banking, finance, legal, it's a challenge every business faces.
That's a great sort of background, and I appreciate it, having been, again, sort of on the sidelines watching your journey. Were there some assumptions that you made about what it was to be a CEO or a founder that turned out to be wrong or right over the course of your journey with Equilar?
Oh, we don't have enough time. It is, you often hear the term, it's lonely at the top. That is obviously, one, but it is moment by moment throughout the day. You've got to be very nimble. The muscles you need to develop. It is much, much harder than I think anyone who gets into that role. I mean, I think the best book I've ever read, which, you ask people as entrepreneurs, Ben Horowitz, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And every founder, every entrepreneur I've talked to who's ever read that book, they're like, oh my God, he just captured it so perfectly. And so, it's, you read about, these executives that are candidly attacked, right, for whatever reason. But people don't know the full story. And that's really hard, right, in terms of some of the decisions that you're making with limited information under various circumstances. And it is infinitely more challenging than I expected going into it.
Yeah, I love your call out there on the complexity and the nuance. We are so quick to go black and white, and it's just never the case, right? Which kind of leads into my next question, which is, how do you separate sort of who Dave Chun is as a human, as a father, as a spouse, etc., as a human, from the CEO, right, from Equilar, or do you?
That's a great question. It's hard, and I don't honestly. So much of me as a person is defined by Equilar. I mean, that's just something I've learned to accept. And honestly, there are times where I meet, we, as I pointed out earlier, we're often involved with CEO pay studies. And so we're reporting, whether it's the New York Times and others, and then I'll meet one of these executives somewhere. And honestly, it's a little uncomfortable, but it's like, well, we're just reporting what's out there. I'm not saying anything's good or bad, but the reality is it's hard to separate me as an individual versus what Equilar is as a company. And I don't honestly have a good answer for that, but it's a great question. But I think something we as founders have to understand is so much of your identity will be defined by the nature of your business and who you work with, the reputation of that business and whatnot. So that's why I do what I can to make sure Equilar is, doing well and not getting in trouble. So.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And if you were to look underneath that in terms of your own sort of core values, right? Dave Chun's worldview, how would you say that's influenced some of your decisions, especially over the years as you have continued to transform? Do you have sort of goalposts, or guiding principles that have been, your underpinning for some of the tougher decisions and the growth?
Yeah. There's so as an Asian American immigrant, that's obviously had a huge impact on my development, my experiences, and frankly, my vision of sort of things that I want to personally accomplish and also on the business side. We've been actually, as you know, very involved around, and it's a difficult time to talk about this, around board diversity. And whether it's women, people of color, or whatnot. And so that's something that I've felt, pretty passionate about and have had our company get involved. Recognize that's a very charged topic right now. And it's not about, hey, you need to add an Asian to your board or a Black person or a woman or whatnot. It's about equality, at least giving people opportunities. And I'm not saying somebody should get hired or placed in a particular role because of identity politics or whatnot. I'm all about meritocracy, all about meritocracy. All I ask for is giving people a chance. And that's really, how do we help, get more shots on goal? How do we give people more opportunities? Never forcing the topic, never forcing that, hey, you must add something. And that's really, if you think about the stuff that we publish as a company. So for a good example would be the Gender Diversity Index. So we're not saying that you need to add women, but we're like, just here's the data. And we just want people to know what the data is showing. And that's what we've always been. But you'll never see Equilar saying like, oh, this is what companies should be doing. We just want to say, hey, if you are looking to recruit and want to widen your aperture, the pool of candidates, we're here to help.
Got it. No, that's a great call out. And when you think about all of the the grit that you've had to show along the way in terms of building Equilar, despite all of the challenges that are there as you're building a company, what's helped you lean into that over time, and are there some specific sacrifices you feel you've had to make along the way to get Equilar where it is?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, not to keep beating the same drum here, but coming over as immigrants in the late '60s, right after the Immigration Act, I was just at a webinar with an Asian American biotech group yesterday, and a couple of us who were on the panel were just sharing our stories. And no matter where you were in the United States, whether it was northern New Jersey or Arkansas in the late '60s, you were one of the few Asians because there just wasn't a whole lot in the '60s before immigration. And the reality is I got the shit kicked out of me, pardon my language here, quite a bit growing up, and called a lot of things and whatnot. And so you learn to become very resilient and, to get a pretty thick skin to recognize you can't just let, it's going to happen. Even today, to this day, even in places like New York City, I've been called things. And you would think in Midtown Manhattan, just walking down the street and things happen. And I just, I'm not saying it's right in any way at all, but just talking about the resilience and learning how to overcome it. So as I mentioned, when we started Equilar, it was literally as NASDAQ at the time was peaking at 5,000, 5,100. So this is, March of 2000. And shortly after, literally within the first month after we got started, that's when everything started to fall apart. And we all remember, we're all old enough to remember. And
Totally.
Exactly. So you know what I'm talking about. And we're like, oh, it'll end soon. And then obviously it didn't end soon. And then, the nail in the coffin was 9/11, right? And then that took it down even another notch. And so those first 3 years, because we weren't able to raise any serious capital, we had to learn to figure it out with very little that we had. And so, roughly just over 3 years without taking a salary. And so, I mean, in terms of kind of resilience, you will learn how to be gritty and figure out ways to, pardon my language, get, stuff done. And so, yeah, that there was a lot of painful lessons. But that's also, for better or for worse, had a big impact on the culture of the business of like, okay, when we make decisions, we're very frugal in terms of, making sure there's an ROI on things and just, we invest where we invest, but we're not, the venture-backed company that raised 20 million and is doing, crazy stuff. And so we recognize that to be very conservative from a fiscal standpoint on these things.
Great. And, one of the things I've asked every guest that I've had thus far is around failure. My grandmother, she said poop makes great fertilizer. And so I like to reference that, leading into the question, which is, what was the fail that was the most critical for getting you where you are today?
Yeah, once again, we don't have enough time. There are many, many lessons learned along the way. I guess the one that, I guess with Equilar, there was when the original business plan isn't what we're doing today. The original business plan was, you're going to laugh, but you'll remember this because we were both working, in the workforce. So when going back to March 2000, the original plan was to build an IPO database. And so in March, it was a great idea. But come April, May, like, why are you doing that? And so it took us a while of pounding sand and realizing we weren't getting very far with this, of this, mirage that we're chasing of, oh, this is going to turn soon. It's going to quickly turn, we should have pivoted much sooner. And so that I would say was a painful year and a half, 2 years. I think the other, I wouldn't necessarily call this a failure, but I also think it was also a lesson of that had also had a big impact. And the reason I don't say it's a failure is, and I'm not trying to be defensive when I say this, but so my first job out of college was Bain. And when I joined Bain, they were going through a very difficult time. And within the first year, over half our class got laid off. And so we were in the Boston office. Bain was about to go under. And so, coming out of college, having this great job, and then a year later, you're finally for unemployment, that was a wake-up call. And thankfully, I was able to land on my feet pretty quickly. But as I talk to people who've been either fired or laid off, they have an appreciation for work and they've learned from that. And I think that's also created a certain amount of, I guess a level of anxiety that has propelled me. And you shouldn't necessarily be motivated by fear, but I think it was definitely a wake-up call.
Mm. That sounds like a juicy opportunity for learning and early on, right? And when in speaking of others and folks that are coming up, when they're aspiring to be a CEO or to get on a board, et cetera, are there things that, guidance you would give them, entrepreneurs that are out there that, are potentially listening, in our audience, like what advice would you have for them as they think about, kind of aspiring to your path?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, try to join a CEO network. So I'm part of YPO, Young Presidents Organization. There are others that are out there. Getting back to what I had mentioned earlier in the call, it's lonely at the top. And there's so many issues that CEOs face. And there's, there are issues you have with your board that or execs that you want to be able to get some input on. And having a peer group of other CEOs that you can go talk with. And the good thing about a group like a YPO or EO or similar type organization is you're part of a smaller group of CEOs and you meet with them on a regular basis. And in YPO, they call it a forum. And by meeting with them on a monthly basis with peer CEOs, they learn the history of what's going on. And so that when there is an issue to discuss and you're looking for input on, you benefit by them knowing what led up to that particular issue. Versus you go see somebody out of the blue and say, "Hey, I'd like your advice," but they don't know the road of how you got there. So I would say, without a doubt, try to find a group that you can of peers that you can relate to, trust, and be able to give, but also recognize that they're there to help you too.
Yeah, building that community of other execs that are doing similar things, right? Facing similar challenges. And how do you go about identifying your blind spots, right? There's what we know, what we know, we don't know, and then there's all this stuff that we can't even see. How do you see around corners? How do you do that?
Yeah, try to read as much as you can. Learn, you have to get out of your comfort zone. And get your head out of the sand. Go to events and things that you wouldn't typically go to. And I was fortunate enough. I just came back from Switzerland. I was able to attend the HD Capital. They had their Software Leader Summit, and there was about 100, 150 people there, and it was mostly CEOs of their portfolio companies and other folks in the ecosystem. And they had an amazing everything, as you know, at this time in history, everything is about AI. And so the event kicked off with Jeffrey Hinton, one of the godfathers of AI, the person developed neural networks and whatnot. And they just had COO of SAP and others, and it was just a wake up call for me. I was just like, I thought we were doing enough around AI. We've got some AI, we have several AI initiatives, but without a doubt, we need to be doing more. And so I think finding these opportunities that going to events, meeting with people that you wouldn't typically meet with, and things that you think you're other boards I sit on, and just meeting people through that and getting together with them for coffee and learning about things. So yeah, I mean, as we often hear, lifelong learner, but really you have to honestly force yourself, because it's easier to go home and read the paper at night or whatever it is, but making a point to get out there and learn from others.
I love that. And I think it's true for everyone, no matter what your role is, no matter what you're doing in this day and age, it is critical. But you stated it beautifully. And, when you think about balancing, I mean, in your role, that strategic vision, that big thinking with also mitigating risk, right? And needing to execute what you have right in front of you. How do you balance that as a leader?
It's a challenge. I mean, there's no easy answer, and that ebbs and flows, right? There are times where you focus on the bigger picture stuff, and there are times where literally throughout the day, even that you focus on the minutia. We have Mondays tend to be very busy for me, just because that's when we have most of our weekly meetings. And so we have our product update, we have our leadership team update, we've got sales and marketing and whatnot. And we have a culture of preparing short decks. We're not a memo like an Amazon, the 6-page memo, 2 pizza.
I've endured those. Oh my, yes, that's good to hear.
Yeah, well, and so we do short presentations, and we make sure that the presentations are distributed the night before, and so people have a chance before coming into the meeting to review, and shame on you if you did not review it. And so that when we are together, we are, it's not presenting, right? It's really discussing, and it's really getting in there. So that's the way to kind of, from my perspective, getting down on the more tactical side of things, right? Okay, if they're on a product release, what needs to be done, what input we need and whatnot. But then on the bigger strategic stuff, honestly, you have to go to the outside. You have to go find events and things like the HD Capital event or other industry events that you have to attend, because that's where I'll give a plug for Asher Matthew and Partnership Leaders. He just had his Catalyst event up in Seattle a couple of weeks ago. Was at the Gartner CRO Summit a couple of weeks ago in Las Vegas. And when you're at some of these larger events, association, that's really where you learn, like, oh my God, what you don't know what you don't know, right? What are things that we should be doing? Who could we be partnering with? What are the problems we should be solving? And you're not going to get that inside your 4 walls. I mean, you really need to get out there and play in traffic.
And how do you cultivate all that I'm hearing from you in terms of innovative thinking and pushing yourself and blind spotting? How do you cultivate that same ethos with your executive team?
Yeah, I mean, we have even within our organization on a very tactical level, we call it LGL, Learn, Grow, Lead, where everybody has a budget, depending on your tenure, a couple of days of PTO to really go out and learn and see what's out there, go attend, whether it's a Salesforce event or something like that. But also encouraging people to get involved with different associations. So here in Silicon Valley, and I'm sure the same thing down in LA. Every night there's something going on somewhere that you could be going out every night. And let's face it, you got to pace yourself. But yeah, really, I encourage people, try to at least, a day a month, just find an event to go to. Because as you know, I mean, you are like the best networker out there. I mean, so you know what I'm talking about. And and just imagine if you had a whole company of Nicoles, right? That if they each went out one night a month to some industry event and think about the people they met, the relationships they formed, and what they would bring back. And so without a doubt, that is something that everyone personally could benefit from, professionally as an individual, but also collectively for the organization.
Yeah, that's great. And like you say, there's always something, right? It's about jumping in and really getting after it. I think that's great. Wearing my Aon hat for a second, my risk hat, if you will, wanted to ask you just a couple of questions, around that, right? And I'd love to know, Equilar's perspective on, some of the top strategic risks that you're really focused on right now, right? How do you kind of keep up with all that's going out there, whether that's geopolitically, with AI, et cetera? There's a lot to be thinking about there. Cyber, of course, all those things. How do you manage risk?
Yeah, I mean, that's something near dear to us because our team, because of the organizations we work with, the InfoSec requests we get, the SOC certifications, we just got a couple of the SOC certifications done recently. So yeah, I mean, we're looking at risk, probably 20% of my time personally. And we're making sure that the leaders within our organization, that they've got the resources behind them. I mean, I've got a document sitting in my inbox as literally as we speak around a data privacy policy risk document I need to review. And so, I mean, this is something we obviously recognize is incredibly important to the Goldman Sachses of the world and the Morgan Stanleys and the Aons and others. And so for us to not take it seriously, I mean, we'd be kidding ourselves. So yeah, now this is something we make sure that the right people within the organization are empowered to put the resources in place.
Yeah, it's super smart and it's critical these days. In thinking, about Equilar specifically in terms of technology. I know you're hot off this conference that you just attended as it relates to AI. How is technology impacting and changing Equilar, and what are you really excited about right now?
Yeah. So we're not going out there buying GPUs and building data centers. So thankfully, we don't have to go that far. But we're absolutely looking at various AI initiatives, and we built our own little research tool for our governance solutions. It's called ERIC, the Equilar Research Intelligence Copilot. And so we built our own little mini ChatGPT-like tool for our clients, feeding our own data into it. And so our clients, in the governance world, can use that ERIC for, I'm trying to find examples in my peer group of companies doing this, or how are they treating this type of whatever? And feedback's been amazing. And in terms of what our clients, one person responded like, this literally saved us hundreds of hours in pulling together our proxy. It's like, as I get ready for my next board meeting, this has been amazing because now I'm walking into that board meeting, playing offense and not defense. I'm much better prepared for what's going on. So they're literally, if you can type a sentence, you can use ERIC, right? And so that's been great. And so recognizing, the data everything around AI at the end of the day is really around data, right? And so many companies have invested a lot of resources in their AI initiatives, but have not cleaned up their data. And that's what leads to hallucinations and whatnot. And so they're
Hygiene
going
is
to,
so important, right?
so important.
Data
And so
without hygiene is,
yeah. So we're in a great position where people are going to realize, hey, the data we have on executives and relationships and whatnot, it's misleading, right? And so we were fortunate enough, we hosted an event with Sridhar Ramaswamy, the CEO of Snowflake. And his best quote is like, you don't have an AI strategy unless you have a data strategy. And so you really got to get that foundation right. And what we're finding is near and dear to your heart, as a business development leader, the CRM. And for most people, exactly,
preach
the
it,
data,
Dave, preach it.
yeah, exactly. The data in your CRM is not the cleanest. Talking about data hygiene, and that's something we're helping to solve, at least at the executive level, right? And the successes we've had with the NASDAQs of the world, and the Goldmans and others, it's just a matter of time where people realize, oh my God, we need to quickly address this because it's a lot of wasted resources and poor AI models coming out of that.
Well, I love Eric, your Chat GPT AI tool. I think that's genius. What are some of the other really cool things that Equilar is solving for? Here's your commercial spot, but love to have you share that with the audience.
So I mentioned Snowflake. So one of the things we've done there is we built out what they call native app within the Snowflake ecosystem. And so Eric is our super excited what we're doing in the governance world, in the business development, executive engagement, relationship intelligence piece. So data's out there, but it's not the cleanest, and it's sitting in different silos. So we built out a native app within Snowflake called Rainmaker. And the way to think of this is one of the most powerful, most valuable data sets you have of relationship mapping is your email server. So think about the Aon email server. Think about all the people that Aon is emailing each day, each minute, and all the amazing relationships, the general counsel at this company, the board member over here, this person for D&O. And to get your arms around all that and then layer our data about who they know on top of what's sitting on your email server, we call that Rainmaker. And that's been a huge home run for people who've rolled this out. And it's people like to say this is the holy grail that everybody's been looking for. And and it's super easy to implement, doesn't require a lot of consultants. And so it's what we call native app. It's literally and we've done this all in a secure data warehouse, stays inside the firewall. And given the early adopters, we're super excited that this will, and the momentum we have with that.
Very intriguing. As a senior sales leader, I've deployed what I think might be similar tools to what you described, but maybe not quite. So, it sounds like you've differentiated from the pack a little bit there. Very interesting.
Yeah, there are a number of companies that are doing kind of the first part of like who's emailed who. What
Right.
they haven't done, which nobody candidly can do because they don't have our data. It's like, well, hey, Nicole, you've emailed, pick a general counsel, but recognizing, hey, that general counsel knows the other general counsel at this other company because they're on the Vanderbilt Law School board together, and realize, oh, we're hosting this big event. We'd love to, oh my God, so-and-so could help invite that person to that event. Because you're, as you know, hosting things all the time. And so we actually just used it most recently for our upcoming summit next week, where we went through board members we know, and they helped invite their CHROs to come to our event. And so now the board members look great. The CHROs are happy. So it's something that's like, okay, how do you, we like to say, activate your network? And recognize, okay, you're literally one hop away from pretty much anyone you want to get to.
Yeah, that sounds really cohesive, right? Like a very thoughtful, full circle approach. Very interested and intrigued to know more about that. Are there other trends out there right now that are really exciting you as a CEO? Things that you're hearing or seeing in the marketplace that you're like, ooh, that's compelling.
Um, I mean, I would say, yeah. I mean, there's just so much that's going on with AI, and I mean, there's just like I said, I just came away. Um, I was talking about this with our. Not that this is anything we can. We would certainly be an adopter of this. Whether we can develop, we're not going to obviously develop something for this, but like, this whole area of vibe coding and just like anyone can code. It's crazy. I saw a LinkedIn post a couple of days ago where they were showing these two founders of a company and how they were able to use AI to basically do everything else, like the marketing stuff, the sales. I mean, it's just crazy. There are these avatar AI sales reps that are out there now, which aren't quite there yet. They're a little creepy still, but it's
But it's a matter of time,
yeah,
right?
the technology is only getting better. It's only going to be it's
Yeah.
just a matter of time. So yeah, I mean, there's just literally like everything we look. I was at a dinner earlier this week, the conscious capitalism movement, and the it was a it's a it's a very challenging time because and you're seeing this with layoffs at Microsoft and I guess who were the other ones that had some big ones that like well, you heard Andy Jassy talking about hey, AI is here to take your job away, but I mean it's just it's the reality of the way technology is going and the way a lot of I'm sure we've ridden in a Waymo before they burned them all in LA there, but it's just crazy what's happening here with jobs and with technology. So
Yeah. No, I think it's absolutely fair and something definitely we all just have to stay in front of, right? And stay aware of it and lean into it and think, I don't know, positive, happy thoughts.
yeah, that hopefully
you
that
know?
there will be exactly that jobs will be created that we didn't anticipate, and that we can
Right.
train the workforce quickly enough to be able to do those types of jobs. And I'll be honest, I don't know what that looks like, but hopefully, somebody will come up with something there.
Yeah. And how do you curate your learning? Like, is it the podcasts, whether it's, news, content, social, how do you curate what you put your eyes on and listen to and hear to advise yourself and stay on
Yeah,
top of
I
stuff?
love that question because I ask that question to people too. So that's one of my interview questions. Like, how do you stay on top of things? But I read the Wall Street Journal religiously, literally cover to cover, virtually. I don't read every article to completion, but I do stay very close to the Journal, New York Times, Barron's. So those are kind of my go-to, just from a publication standpoint in reading. Love the Acquired podcast. Big fan of that. They
Yeah.
got the best PR about a year ago when the Wall Street Journal ran a story of them. The smartest people in the room, listen to Acquired. Those are really kind of the big ones that I, like I said, would listen to. Then I get your usual daily newsletters, the New York Times Deal Book, Politico, Political Money, Axios. I'll read those. CHRO Daily from Forbes. So I have my the newsletters that I get, and I'm really bad about that because like I'll get added to one and then I start reading and then like I have too many, right? I mean, we've got in our inbox. I got to like call those out. I'm not a big podcast person. I do listen to some occasionally, but I'm not. I
You're
wouldn't
hurting my
say
feelings, Dave.
no. Yeah, no. I'm sorry. No. I mean, I will, but I'm not. I'll be honest with you. I'm not. I'm not on that as much, but I'm big on Audible, like audiobooks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah. So sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. Sorry.
No, I'm totally joking. I'm absolutely giving you trouble there. And I think, kind of a somewhat personal question again, but when you think of success, apart from EBITDA, share price, financial metrics, etc. What does success come to mean to you? And would you describe yourself as successful?
Yeah, I mean, I would describe myself as successful, but then obviously, right, there's, what degree of success, right? I mean, I think, am I happy with where I am and where in my stage of life and whatnot? Yeah, without a doubt. And also feel very lucky, without a doubt, some breaks have definitely come along the way. But one of the things, and kind of going back to something I touched on earlier, um, one of my personal passion projects is, having an impact, especially for the Asian American community. And so that's something that I've, fortunate enough that I'm in a position where I can have a bit of an impact, and whether it's data we've collected at Equilar, relationships I've formed, people I've had a work opportunity to work with along the way, and so that's something that as I look at kind of okay, the next the back half of my life, my career, where can I take what I've built so far and then continue to have an impact and further build on the success is where I'm channeling my energy and focus, because you can only do so much, right? Is okay, what do I want to be remembered for? Is okay, having that impact in the Asian American community.
And I think that makes so much sense. And I guess what I would follow that with, what is the impact that you hope Equilar leaves? What is the legacy that you hope for Equilar in the world?
Yeah, we want Equilar to be recognized and remembered as a high quality data provider. It's been beneficial to help businesses grow. As mentioned earlier, very passionate of the unique data set we've built around connecting execs and board members. And I got an email this morning. I don't want to mention her name, but it's somebody I'm sure you would know, but at one of the major investment banks. And just it's been so helpful. It's been great. And just, when you get emails like that, I mean, that says a lot about all the hard work and having the impact, working with groups like hers. And so, yeah, how do we help if people, like I was helping out a friend yesterday. I don't think he'd be upset with me sharing, but he's involved with a sports organization or a sports startup. Yeah, relatively, I would say an earlier stage. It's not the LA Dodgers or the LA Lakers going for 10 billion. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha.
But yeah, but much earlier on. And we were just talking about, as he's trying to negotiate large commercial relationships, and how do we get to certain folks. And so I was walking him through it and going to help him out on some of these things. And so where we're having an impact, and this is for, a sports team up here in the Bay Area, in one of the not so, one of the more struggling communities here in the Bay Area. And so to the extent that we can, bring people to games and, get people excited about these types of things and help these businesses grow. So that's what I'm excited about. And that's why I want people to be like, oh, you should be using Equilar. It's going to help you connect. It's going to help you close these bigger deals that we've been trying to, because the as you know this, right? The quicker you can form a relationship with somebody higher in the organization, the faster business gets done. And so that's what we're all about.
Well, I can attest from personal experience how incredibly gracious and giving of your time you are when it comes to helping others, being an ear or an eye for someone who's trying to build something. I've seen you give firsthand, and it's always sage and smart. And I'm always appreciative of that. But tell me, or tell the audience, absolutely, tell the audience a little bit about, when should they be thinking of Equilar? When would, a company think about Equilar, and how should they think about Equilar?
Yeah. Well, if you've had any desire to connect with senior executives or board members, that's one right there. You've had challenges with your CRM. You're involved in something corporate governance related. I know we've kind of a couple different parts of our business, but I think at the end of the day, so what I'm very excited about, actually, if you don't mind, I want to give a plug for a new organization we just started. It's called SEALS. And it's the Society, and we'd love to get you involved, Nicole, the Society of Executive Engagement Leaders. And so I was fortunate enough to meet two individuals, Jay Thayer, ex-Salesforce executive, and Sarah Moody. And Jay ran the Executive Engagement Program for Salesforce. So the way to think of this is CXO programs. So it's, if you're Salesforce, you're trying to reach CMOs and CROs and whatnot. And so, as you know, Salesforce is known for their big Davos event. And that was stuff that Jay would be responsible for. And so Sarah was also doing this for companies like Splunk and Zscaler and others. And one thing that we realized as we got to know each other, is that there are people doing this at various companies. There's probably somebody at Aon doing this there. At ServiceNow and Databricks and others, but they didn't know each other, and they were all kind of on their own island. And so we had a dinner, and you know what I'm talking about here. So we hosted dinner at the Battery. We brought them together. Very few of them knew each other, but it was an amazing experience hearing them talking about the response, as you know, it's a tremendous amount of pressure, responsibility. You're reporting into the CEO, CMO on these very high profile events. You don't want to, you want to make sure everything is rock solid. And we after the dinner, we had the founding member dinner. We posted this on LinkedIn, and so many people were like, "Oh my God, want to learn more about this." And so this is just something that I'm super excited to be a part of at the ground floor and help get off the ground. Like I said, we can talk more about this afterwards. Love to get you involved because it's just right in your wheelhouse.
Well, thank you. I would love that. Absolutely. Very good. It sounds super exciting, of course, and that's in my DNA. So I'd love to hear more. Good. And is there any sort of, anything that I haven't asked you that I should have asked you, or any parting words for folks that might be listening that, are looking, to become entrepreneurs, et cetera?
Yeah. No, I think I've pretty much covered everything. I guess the parting words, no matter how hard you think it's going to be 2 to 3x that, without a doubt. Without a doubt. It's just without question. You ask any entrepreneur, it's never been a straight line up. It's never been a straight line up.
So strap in and prepare and learn to lean in and buckle up. Got it. I think that's fair. Absolutely. And where can people find you if they want to follow you and all of your cool meanderings and all of the wonderful events you attend to hang on to your coattails? How do people find you, follow you, and where do they find and follow Equilar?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. Opened up my profile, so happy to connect with people there. Equilar.com, you'll see our upcoming events coming up on our website and stuff. So please feel free to reach out. It'd be great.
Absolutely. I've seen you on LinkedIn and it's great. I love all your posts. So very good. Well, Dave, I'm just so grateful for your time. I know how incredibly valuable it is, and you've just got such a unique and compelling story with Equilar. I'm grateful that we got the opportunity to kind of share it and to talk about it today. And many thanks for being here.
Yeah, no, thanks, Nicole. Really appreciate it. Thank you.